My name is Derek, and what happened to me in the Cascade Mountains 3 years ago still haunts every camping trip I take. I was 24, fresh out of college, and desperate to disconnect from the world. No phone service, no people, just me and the wilderness for 5 days. I picked a remote trail in Washington State that barely showed up on maps. The ranger station was closed when I arrived, which should have been my first warning. But I was stubborn. I grabbed my permit from a self-service box and headed in. The first 2 days were perfect. Crystal clear lakes, towering pines, absolute silence except for the wind. I set up camp near a clearing about 8 miles in, far enough that I hadn't seen another soul since the trailhead. On the third night, that's when things changed. I was cooking dinner over my camp stove when I heard it this low, guttural sound coming from the tree line about 50 yards away. At first, I thought it was a bear. I'd hung my food properly, followed every protocol. But this sound, it wasn't like any bear I'd heard before. It was almost vocal, like someone trying to speak through a mouthful of gravel. I grabbed my flashlight and swept it across the trees. Nothing, just darkness and the gentle sway of branches. I convinced myself I was being paranoid and crawled into my tent around 10 p.m. Sleep came easy enough, but I woke up suddenly around 2 a.m. to complete silence. And I mean complete. No insects, no wind, nothing. That's when I heard the breathing. Heavy, deliberate breaths just outside my tent. Close enough that I could hear the slight wheeze at the end of each exhale. My heart was hammering so hard I thought whoever, or whatever, was out there could hear it. I didn't move, didn't even breathe. The breathing circled my tent slowly, methodically, like it was studying me. Then it stopped right at the tent entrance. Through the thin nylon, I could see a shadow. Massive, easily 7 or 8 feet tall, blocking out the moonlight completely. The shadow shifted, and I heard sniffing long, deep sniffs like it was trying to memorize my scent. Then came the smell. God, the smell. Like wet dog mixed with decay. And something else, something prehistoric. It burned my nostrils, even through the tent fabric. The zipper of my tent started to move. Slowly, deliberately. Something was pulling it down from the outside with precision. Not claws, but fingers. I could hear the individual teeth of the zipper separating one by one. I finally found my voice and screamed. Just raw, primal terror pouring out of me. The zipper stopped. The shadow retreated, and then footsteps. Not running, but walking away with purpose. Each footstep shook the ground slightly, heavy and deliberate, moving back toward the tree line. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The second dawn broke. I packed up my gear with shaking hands and started hiking out. I was moving fast, almost jogging with my heavy pack, when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Footprints. Massive footprints in the soft earth around where my tent had been. They were at least 18 inches long, 5-toed, and deep. Whatever made them was unbelievably heavy. But that wasn't the worst part. The prints didn't just circle my tent once. They circled it dozens of times, over and over in the dirt, like it had been watching me for hours before I ever woke up. And there was something else. About 20 feet from my tent, there was a pile of stones, carefully stacked, almost like a cairn, but arranged in a perfect circle. In the center of the circle, placed with deliberate care, was my hat, the one I'd been wearing the day before and left in my car. I was 8 miles from the trailhead. There was no way it should have been there. I ran the rest of the way out and never reported what happened. Who would believe me? But sometimes, late at night, I think about those footprints. The intelligence it took to unzip a tent. The patience it showed, watching me sleep. And I wonder, how many other campers has it watched? How many others has it followed home? Because 3 months after that trip, I was taking out the trash at my apartment in Seattle, and I found a small stack of stones arranged in a circle on my back patio. Nothing in the center this time, just the stones, like a reminder that it knows where I am. My name is Sarah, and I need to tell someone what happened to me and my sister in the Ozark National Forest last summer, because I don't think I can carry this alone anymore. My twin sister Emma and I were 21 and celebrating our college graduation with a camping trip. Just the two of us, like we'd done since we were kids with our dad. We picked a familiar spot we'd been to twice before, a secluded area near a creek, accessible by a poorly maintained forest road. We arrived Friday afternoon and set up camp quickly. 2 tents, a good fire pit, plenty of food. Everything felt normal, safe, familiar. Friday night was perfect. We stayed up late, drinking wine by the fire, talking about our futures. Around midnight, we retreated to our separate tents. We always got our own tents. Even as twins, we both snored and neither of us could sleep through it. I fell asleep to the sound of the creek and the occasional pop of dying embers. I woke up to Emma calling my name. Sarah, Sarah, can you come here? Her voice sounded off, strained, like she was trying not to cry. I checked my phone, 3:47 a.m. My heart sank. Emma was the brave one. She didn't scare easy. Em, you okay? I called back, unzipping my tent. Sarah, please. I need you. Her tent was only about 15 feet from mine. I grabbed my flashlight and stumbled over in my sleeping bag, fear making my hands clumsy. Emma, I'm coming, what's wrong? I got to her tent and pulled the zipper down. She was asleep, dead asleep, curled up in her sleeping bag, breathing deeply and peacefully. Sarah, the voice came from the woods behind me. I spun around, flashlight cutting through the darkness. The beam landed on the tree line about 30 yards away, and I saw it, a shape, tall, impossibly tall, standing between 2 trees, partially obscured by shadow, but I could see enough. Broad shoulders, long arms, covered in dark, matted hair, and it was looking right at me. Sarah, come here. The voice was Emma's, exactly Emma's. Same pitch, same cadence, same slight rasp she got when she was tired. But it was coming from that thing in the trees. My flashlight started to flicker. The batteries were new, brand new, but the light was dying, and I could see the shape moving closer, stepping out from between the trees with careful, measured steps. I screamed Emma's name and dove into her tent, zipping it shut with shaking hands. She woke up confused and disoriented as I clawed at her sleeping bag. We have to go right now. What? Sarah, what are you? Move. The smell hit us then. That same rotten, wild smell. And then we heard it circling the tent. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, and with each circle a voice. My voice. Emma. Emma, it's okay. Emma, come outside. My sister's face went white. She grabbed my arm so hard it bruised. The thing was using my voice now, and it sounded exactly like me. Every inflection, every breath, like it had recorded me and was playing it back. We sat there frozen as it circled the tent over and over, sometimes using my voice, sometimes using Emma's, sometimes using both, having a conversation with itself, mimicking us so perfectly that if I'd had my eyes closed, I would have sworn my sister was speaking. This went on for 2 hours. 2 hours. The moment we saw the first hint of dawn through the tent fabric, footsteps stopped. No warning, just gone. We packed up in 15 minutes and ran to the car. The entire time we didn't speak, didn't dare, because we both had the same terrifying thought. What if it was still listening? What if it was still learning? When we got to the car, I found something that still makes my skin crawl. On the hood, written in mud, no, not mud, something darker, were 2 words in handwriting that looked disturbingly like my own. See you. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. The thing I haven't even told Emma. Last week, I got a voicemail on my phone. Unknown number. When I played it, it was Emma's voice saying, Sarah, I need to tell you something about that night. Call me back. But Emma was sitting right next to me when I got it. Whatever that thing was, it's not done with us, and it still has our voices. My name is Frank, and I'm a wildlife photographer. I've spent 15 years in the backcountry, photographing everything from grizzlies to wolverines. I thought I knew these woods. I thought I understood what lived here. I was wrong. Last October, I was on assignment in Northern California, trying to capture images of black bears preparing for hibernation. I'd been camping solo in the Six Rivers National Forest for a week, moving my camp every few days to follow the wildlife patterns. My 7th night there, I set up near an old-growth grove that my trail cam had shown promising bear activity. It was a beautiful spot, massive redwoods, a small clearing, perfect light for morning photography. I'd positioned 3 trail cameras around the clearing, hoping to catch nocturnal activity. That night, I made dinner, reviewed my photos, and turned in around 9 p.m. I'm usually a light sleeper. You have to be when you're camping in bear country. But that night, I slept like the dead. I woke up at dawn feeling strangely groggy, like I'd been drugged. My tent was unzipped. Not all the way, just about 6 inches. I never left my tent unzipped. My heart started racing. I checked my belongings. Nothing missing. Camera equipment intact. Food bag still hanging from the bare line. Then I saw it, sitting on my camp chair just outside the tent. A dead rabbit, freshly killed, still warm, placed carefully on the seat, positioned like an offering. I'm not an amateur. I know bear behavior, cougar behavior, wolf behavior. This wasn't any of them. The rabbit wasn't eaten or mauled. Its neck was cleanly broken, and it was placed there with obvious intention. I should have packed up, should have left. But I'm a photographer, and my curiosity overrode my common sense. I checked my trail cameras. All 3 cameras had been turned around. Not knocked over by an animal, turned. Deliberately repositioned to face away from the clearing and toward my tent. My hands shook as I reviewed the footage on my laptop. The first camera showed normal activity until 11:47 p.m. Then, a large dark shape approached the camera. Too dark to make out clearly, but massive. The shape reached toward the lens, and the image went black as it was turned. Same thing on camera 2 at 11:52 p.m. Camera 3 at 11:58 p.m. Whatever was moved with intelligence and purpose, systematically disabling my cameras. But that wasn't the worst part. After each camera was turned, there were several minutes of footage pointing at my tent, and I could hear sounds, heavy breathing, movement, and something else. Humming. Deep, resonant humming. Not random, it had a melody, a pattern, like something was singing to itself while it worked. I watched in horror as a dark, hair-covered arm reached into frame on camera 3. The arm was enormous, easily twice the thickness of my own, covered in dark brown hair. But what made my blood freeze was the hand. It was holding a flower, a wildflower, carefully plucked, being examined in the moonlight by thick, very human-like fingers. The hand turned the flower slowly, delicately, like someone admiring a piece of art. Then the hand disappeared from frame, moving toward my tent. I scrambled out of my tent and looked around frantically. There, tucked into the guy line of my tent, was a wildflower, the same kind from the video. This thing had been inches from me while I slept, had unzipped my tent, had left me gifts. The rabbit, the flower. I packed up in a blind panic, throwing gear into my truck with no organization. I just wanted out. But as I was loading the last of my equipment, I noticed something that made me stop cold. All around my campsite, in a wide circle, were more flowers. Dozens of them, stuck in the ground, hung from branches, tucked into tree bark. All different colors, all carefully placed. And tracks. Massive 5-toed tracks, at least 17 inches long, circling my camp over and over. I drove straight out and didn't stop until I hit a town with cell service. I reported it to the ranger station, but I kept it vague. Just said I'd had an encounter with an aggressive animal. 3 weeks passed. I tried to put it behind me. Then yesterday, I went out to my car and found something on my windshield. A flower. The same type. Pressed flat like it had been carefully preserved. But here's what made my heart stop. I live in Denver. I was camping in Northern California. That's over 1,200 miles away. The flower was placed there sometime during the night. I checked my building's security camera. At 3:17 a.m., a shadow moved past my car, too tall to fully fit in frame. It lingered for just a moment, placed something on the windshield, and walked away. I'm not in the forest anymore, but whatever was leaving me gifts, it followed me home. And I don't think flowers are all it wants to give me. My name is Tyler. What I'm about to tell you happened when I was 17 during a winter camping trip, and it's the reason I'll never step foot in the woods between November and March again. It was February break, senior year, and my best friend Josh and I decided to do a winter camping trip in the Adirondacks. We were experienced Boy Scouts since elementary school, both working on our Eagle projects. Winter camping was just the next challenge. We picked a remote area, filed our trip plan with the ranger station, and headed in. 5 days, 4 nights. The forecast was cold but clear. The first 3 days were brutal but amazing. Temperatures dropping below zero at night, but our gear held up. We were proud of ourselves. 2 kids conquering the winter wilderness. On the 4th night, we set up camp near a frozen creek. The snow was deep, almost 3 feet, and we had to dig out a platform for our tents. By the time we finished, we were exhausted. Around 8 p.m., Josh went to filter water from a hole we'd made in the creek ice. He'd been gone maybe 10 minutes when I heard him yelling. Not scared yelling, excited yelling. Tyler, Tyler, come here, you gotta see this. I trudged through the snow to the creek, annoyed he was making me leave the warmth of my sleeping bag. Josh was standing by the water hole, shining his headlamp into the woods across the creek. Look, look, I followed his light and saw it. A figure, tall maybe 7 feet, standing between the trees about 40 yards away. It wasn't moving, just standing there, watching us. Dude, is that a person? Josh whispered. We watched it for a full minute. It didn't move. Didn't respond to Josh waving his arms or shouting hello. Maybe it's a hunter? I offered, but my voice sounded weak even to me. No hunter would be out here at night, and no hunter was that tall. We should go back to camp, I said. Josh agreed. We backed away slowly, keeping our lights on the figure. It still didn't move. Back at camp, we tried to rationalize it. A tree with weird shadows. A trick of the light. But we both knew what we'd seen. Around midnight we heard it. Footsteps crunching through the snow. Heavy, deliberate steps circling our campsite. But here's the thing about snow, especially deep snow. It's loud. Every step makes noise. These footsteps were calculated, patient, and getting closer. Then Josh's voice called out from the woods. Tyler, help. I'm hurt. I looked at Josh. He was in his tent. I could see his silhouette. Could hear him breathing fast. Josh, I whispered. I'm here, he said, voice shaking. But his voice kept calling from the woods. Tyler, please. I fell. I'm freezing. The voice sounded exactly like Josh. Every inflection. The slight stutter he got when he was scared. How could it know that? We didn't leave our tents. We sat there, paralyzed, as Josh called for help over and over. Sometimes the voice changed location. Sometimes it sounded like it was right outside our tents. Sometimes it was distant. This continued until dawn. When the sun finally rose, we packed up without speaking. The terror had struck us both mute. We just wanted out. As we were leaving, I noticed something. Tracks in the snow. Massive tracks, at least 18 inches long, circling our camp dozens of times. But that wasn't the worst part. The tracks led away from our camp, back toward the creek. We followed them, neither of us sure why. Maybe shock, maybe morbid curiosity. They stopped at the frozen creek, at the exact spot where Josh had called me the night before, and in the snow, carefully drawn with what looked like a stick or a claw, was a picture, a crude but deliberate drawing of two figures in tents, and standing between them, a third figure, much taller. We hiked out and never spoke about it. Not to our parents, not to the rangers, not to each other. We were too scared people would think we were crazy. Josh and I stayed friends through college, but we never camped together again. Never even talked about hiking. Last month, I got a text from Josh's number at 3 a.m. Tyler, help. I'm hurt. I called him immediately. He answered on first ring, wide awake. Did you just text me? I asked. No, he said. But I got the same text. From your number. We both got texts. From each other. At the exact same time. Neither of us sent them. Something in those woods learned our voices that night. Learned our friendship. Learned how to mimic us perfectly. And I don't think it's in the woods anymore. I think it's out here. With us. My name is Amanda, and what happened to me in the Olympic National Forest destroyed my family and left me with a truth that no one will ever believe. 2 years ago, I took my 8-year-old daughter, Lily, on her first real camping trip. It was just going to be a weekend thing, a mother-daughter bonding experience, before she got too old to think camping with mom was cool. We picked a popular campground, one with bathrooms and other families nearby. I wanted her first experience to be safe and fun, not scary. Saturday was perfect. We hiked easy trails, roasted marshmallows, told stories. Lily was having the time of her life. She kept saying, "This is the best day ever, Mom." That night, we zipped into our tent around 9 p.m. Lily fell asleep almost immediately, curled up in her sleeping bag with her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy. I stayed awake reading by headlamp, enjoying the peace. Around 11 p.m., I heard a child giggling outside our tent. I froze. We were at the far end of the campground, and I hadn't seen any other kids in the nearby sites. The giggling continued, high-pitched, playful, but something about it felt off. "Hello," I called out. The giggling stopped immediately. I unzipped the tent and looked outside. The campground was quiet. A few distant fires still burning, but no movement, no children. I convinced myself I'd imagined it and went back to reading. Lily slept on, peaceful and safe. Then, around 1 a.m., I heard it again, giggling, right outside the tent. This time, I stayed quiet and listened. The giggling moved around the tent, slowly, deliberately, like someone playing a game. Then Lily's voice, "Mommy, I'm outside, come play with me." I looked at Lily. She was asleep next to me, dead asleep, mouth slightly open, breathing deeply. But her voice kept calling. "Mommy, please, it's fun out here, come play." My blood went cold. I grabbed Lily and held her tight. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake up. "Mommy, why won't you come play?" The voice was getting agitated now, frustrated. And it was changing, getting deeper, darker, less like Lily and more like something else trying to sound like her. Then the tent started shaking, not from wind, from something grabbing it from the outside, pulling on the fabric, testing its strength. I screamed. Lily woke up screaming. Other campers started shouting, flashlights clicking on across the campground. Whatever was outside our tent disappeared, just gone. Like it had never been there. A park ranger came by, investigated, found nothing. He said it was probably a bear. Bears sometimes investigate tents with food, but we had no food in our tent. Everything was in the bear box like you're supposed to. He stayed with us until dawn, then escorted us back to our car. Lily was traumatized. She wouldn't speak, just held Mr. Hoppy and stared. We drove home that morning. I thought it was over. A terrifying experience, but over. 3 nights later, Lily woke up screaming at 2 a.m. I ran to her room and found her sitting up in bed, pointing at her window. "The girl wants Mr. Hoppy," she said. "What girl, baby?" "The big girl. The one who looks like me. She says if I give her Mr. Hoppy, she'll go away." I checked the window. We're on the second floor. There was nothing there. But on the windowsill, pressed against the glass, was a handprint. Massive, easily twice the size of my own hand. And it was on the outside of the window. The visits continued. Every few nights, Lily would wake up and say the big girl was asking for Mr. Hoppy. Each time, there would be evidence, handprints on windows, scratches on the siding, footprints in our yard that were impossibly large. My husband thought Lily was having nightmares, but I knew better. I'd seen the fear in her eyes that night in the tent. Finally, after 2 weeks of escalating terror, Lily came to me with Mr. Hoppy. She says if I leave him outside, she'll stop coming. She says she just wants to borrow him. Every parenting instinct screamed at me to say no. I saw the exhaustion in Lily's eyes. The fear. She wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating. Against my better judgment, I let her leave Mr. Hoppy on the back porch that night. The visits stopped. Immediately, Lily started sleeping through the night again. Started smiling again. Mr. Hoppy was gone in the morning. I thought we'd gotten lucky. Made a trade with something that shouldn't exist, and somehow came out okay. Last week, I was cleaning out the garage and found a box I didn't recognize. Inside was Mr. Hoppy, but he was different. Changed. His fur was matted with something dark. His button eyes had been replaced with different ones, too large, the wrong color. And he smelled like the woods, like dirt and decay and something wild. Tucked into his paw was a note, written in child's handwriting. "Thank you for the trade. Lily is much more fun than the rabbit. She plays with me every night when you sleep. Don't worry, I always bring her back before morning." I ran to Lily's room. She was there, sleeping peacefully in her bed, but her feet were dirty, covered in mud and pine needles, and when I pulled back her covers, I saw scratches all over her legs. Fresh scratches, like she'd been running through the woods. I woke her up and asked where she'd been. She looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Nowhere, Mommy. I was just playing." "Playing with who?" She smiled then, a strange, distant smile. "My friend, the one who looks like me but bigger. She takes me to the woods every night. She says we're sisters now." I check with my husband. He never hears her leave, never wakes up. It's like we're all under some kind of spell. Last night, I pretended to sleep and watched Lily's room through a crack in the door. At 2 a.m., her window opened by itself, and Lily climbed out, barefoot in her pajamas, and dropped to 15 feet to the ground like it was nothing. A massive figure waited for her in the shadows of our yard. It took her hand. Lily's small hand disappeared completely in its enormous palm, and they walked into the woods behind our house. She came back at 5 a.m., climbed up the side of the house like a spider, and crawled back into bed. I don't know what to do. If I tell anyone, they'll think I'm insane. If I try to stop her, I'm afraid of what that thing might do. Because I know now we didn't make a trade. We made a mistake. That thing in the woods didn't want the rabbit. It wanted Lily, and it's slowly taking her, piece by piece, night after night. Sometimes, when she comes home in the morning, I see her in the hallway mirror, and just for a second, just a flash, she looks taller, hairier, less human, and she's starting to smell like the woods, like dirt and decay, like something that was never meant to live in a house. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more terrifying true encounters. And remember, the next time you hear something calling your name in the woods, it might not be who you think it is.